Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this afternoon's webinar with Grey Matter on safeguarding your business, part of the Cyber Security Awareness Month 2024. My name is Scott Harrison. I'm the cybersecurity and backup specialist at Grey Matter. I've been here nearly 8 years. I've been through new business, renewals role, and for the last 4 years, I've undertaken the cybersecurity solutions piece, helping our customers get what they need for their cybersecurity requirements and advising where appropriate as well. A little bit of background on Grey Matter. If you're new to us or you don't know us very well, we're a software reseller, a cloud service provider focused on supporting technology-led companies. We have over 40 years of experience in this sector, and we're part of the Climb Global Solutions Group with offices in the UK, Canada, Ireland, and the USA. We offer a vast catalogue of solutions from leading, emerging, and niche vendors, and we have specialist teams that look after security, Microsoft, and mapping. Title suggested, of course, is all about Cybersecurity Awareness Month and the global focus on the importance of being aware of cybersecurity vulnerabilities and the best practices to overcome them. 2024 theme has been all around securing our world, and cybersecurity affects everybody. You should never segregate yourself into thinking this won't affect our business, or a great quote I've heard is always assume that you're under attack, which is quite apt with the developing nature of cybersecurity threats and what the cyber criminals are doing to take advantage of that. I think it's worth talking about some of the big oops moments from the last 10 years and some of the major data breaches that there have been and attacks. If we track back to 2015, there was a Experian data breach. They've caused to credit referencing and a number of other different things, and a compromise of nearly 15 million records. In 2016, we had WikiLeaks and the American Democratic National Committee leak during the election, which indicated political cybercrime, but also a starting point for the introduction of GDPR, or the General Data Protection Regulation, protecting you as an individual and holding businesses to account if they had a breach. 2017, we had Equifax and 150 million customer records made its way onto the dark web. Uber breach with 57 million customer records, including payment details. And of course, major ransomware attack across the world in the form of WannaCry, which hit the NHS in the UK particularly hard using legacy operating systems. In 2018, MyHeritage, which is very similar to Ancestry, had 92 million customer records leaked, and the Marriott Hotels had a customer information leak that was undetected for nearly a year before they found out that this happened, and also a British Airways leaks of customer details. 2020, COVID, the world was locked down, and the cyber criminals certainly took advantage. People working from home, maybe having less security than being in the office, remote working on their own devices, and things like phishing attacks definitely were risen during that time. 2021, ransomware and supply chain attacks were again very prominent. We can count the SolarWinds attack as one of the major stories of that time, and a little tidbit on that, the password that they actually used for that system was as simple as SolarWinds 123. More on password management later. In 2022, we of course have the Ukraine invasion, attacks on News Corp, Microsoft, British Red Cross. 2023, hits on PlayStation, Activision, ChatGPT, the MoveIt vulnerability on payment and payroll systems, the UK Electoral Commission, and also slightly more frightening than just going for financial details, 23andMe, which is where you can to send your DNA off to see what future health issues you might have or similar, was also breached, and a number of records leaked in the European sector. This year already, we've had the motherall breaches in January, where 60 million data records were leaked for different websites and services, such as Spotify, Netflix, and PlayStation accounts. I myself have been a victim of this. No, I haven't had a breach, but I've certainly had text messages saying someone's trying to log into your account when I'm nowhere near any of these systems. And AI, a deepfake, was used to steal nearly $25 million from a Hong Kong finance agency, with someone posing as their CFO using both deepfake video and also an AI program to fake their voice and get them to transfer that amount of money over. And we've seen ransomware attacks on the NHS and the education and finance sectors in the first 6 months of this year. The threat landscape continues to evolve and become more complex as time goes on. Emerging threats from both political, cyber criminals, and many other areas, including internally, can be considered. It can lead to lack of customer trust if you're not putting the right controls in place. Cyber insurance has become a massive talking point, and adoption of this has increased nearly 25% over the last 2 years. And threat intelligence is going to continue or build its presence in form of how businesses assess their cyber risk and staying in front of the threats that are out there. AI acceleration, we know how productive this can be, and a little bit more on that shortly. But there are questions around the data governance. What policies are you using to manage the use of AI internally? Compliance, pervasive AI threats and new threats. Rather frighteningly, we are starting to see malware that has been programmed by AI and has it built into the background to start responding to someone trying to counteract an attack or something, or someone trying to gain access. Along with this, we have a lot of cyber complexity with expanding certification and compliance schemes. There is certainly a lack of cybersecurity skills in the market. The average wage for a good cyber analyst these days, if you're looking to build your own security team in-house, you're looking at maybe 50, 60K a year for that individual, plus training costs and getting the right hardware and software in the business to manage that effectively, which leads to a lot more managed service offerings. That will become the key for some businesses in their cybersecurity posture. But there are a lot out there, and it's getting down to the right one for your business and what you're looking to protect yourself against, which becomes important. And a lack of integrations. We are seeing more vendors start to even work with competitors to strengthen their offerings. But again, with so many different tools out there, ideally you want everything in one place, but we're not quite there yet. So integrations and working together becomes a lot more important for anybody or any of those publishers that are out there providing solutions. IT transformation, even 5 years on from COVID, we're still doing cloud and hybrid deployments and including AI in enabled PCs. But ultimately what this brings is a lot more new vulnerabilities to the stage, and again, something that needs to be constantly monitored and constantly assessed and monitored to make sure you're staying ahead and keeping all of those gaps closed. I've mentioned expanding frameworks, and there's 2 or 3 on here which are definitely worth mention, and one that has already gone live this month, which is the NIS2 or NIS2 regulations in the EU. A lot of that is regarding how businesses report any breaches or incidents and how quickly they have to do it. The DMARC changes in relation to PCI DSS compliance, so that's card payments or financial transactions. This will become an absolute requirement to get signed off for that in March 2025. And DORA is due to go live in January 2025 with massive changes and new considerations for anybody in the financial sector working in Europe moving forward from January 2025. But everything else under there, we're hearing a lot of demand from customers, and even your own clients are asking for you to get these as well, such as Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus, Cyber Insurance, NIST, which is an American framework, ISO 27001, which is data compliance, HIPAA, which is a US medical regulation, GDPR continuation of that, and Microsoft building their Zero Trust framework for the Azure platforms and M365 moving forwards as well. Focus a little bit on cyber insurance. statistic from Gartner has revealed that nearly 88% of board members have classified cybersecurity now as a business risk rather than a technology risk. And that's because of some of the financial implications that going under attack or sort of, being held to ransom can cause. Insurance is there to help protect businesses, and it protects you from the growing intensity and the complexity of threats. It does increase your chances of survival, and UK businesses can accept most current cyber insurance policies to cover the areas below. I will cover them in a bit more detail, but it's worth saying that traditionally there have been insurance policies out there that were generally labelled as general liability insurance or errors and omissions coverage, do not specifically address cyber incidents. So they're unlikely to address cyber claims. So if you have one of those policies and you might think, well, we're covered, have a good read through just to make sure. But in a normal world, you would expect coverage for data loss, any incident response costs, forensic analysis of anything that happened to you in terms of an incident, cover any liabilities that stem from network or any security failures, and cover any costs from business interruption. Policy may also cover any regulatory compliance sanctions, such as ICO fines, any reputational damage, any damage to physical assets, and also any legal liabilities. How we can help you with this, we can help you gain those certification requirements, certainly Cyber Essentials, Cyber Essentials Plus. We can help with ISO 27001 through one of our partners, and we can provide guidance through our Client Global Services network on any Azure security you're looking to build, and also employ managed detection services and security awareness training that can actually help you get better cover and be more qualified to get that policy cover as well. However, there are some slight grey areas, and it's worth talking about this because at the moment the industry is fairly unregulated, but again, prediction for me is that this could change within the next couple of years. Some of the common policy exceptions, the first is financial fraud from social engineering. So attacks on businesses such as business email compromise or spear phishing. Often the lost funds are explicitly not reimbursable if they were paid voluntarily by an employee. Phishing is still at the top of the tree in terms of threat vectors and the biggest entry point for cyber criminals. The cost of hardening, or we'll say remediating, cybersecurity posture after an attack, that can be an expense, and it will cost you more in terms of premiums later on. So 1 year or the year after when you renew, you could pay more if you're under attack. Geographic restrictions. So let's say you have a multiple hub of offices. Generally, a policy will only cover you in the constituent country where your head office is based. You might have satellite sites, but again, worth checking the fine print and the black and white just to make sure that if you've got offices in other locations, that they're going to be covered as well. Nation state attacks are often excluded. An example that we can give you is Lloyd's of London and others. Some cyber insurance policies causes explicitly denying coverage of attacks declared acts of war or attributed to a nation state factor. Finally, the reduced value of intellectual property. So I know we have some attendees on the call who are ISVs. Sometimes if it is your secret source, if it is your development code, they will not give you the full value back for that if it's stolen. So again, another point to be aware of if that is your area and that's how you make your money. And finally, with ransomware, they're adding limitations to this all the time. And in most cases, ransomware cover is now becoming an add-on to a cyber insurance policy because it has its own pitfalls. And again, we can link this to certain government changes. Again, an example I can give you is in Australia, if you now pay for a ransomware attack, they class it as a terrorism offence. So this is why we're seeing this as a separate entity to a whole policy. If we look at 2024 and beyond and some statistics, the average cost of a data breach was over 4.88 million in 2024, and has become the highest on record. 88% of cybersecurity breaches were caused by a human error, and 68% of breaches involved were a human element this year. The length of time to identify breach has gone up to 194 days. Cybercriminals are spending a lot more time getting in, dwelling, and just seeing what happens day to day in terms of operations and what goes where to find out the most critical point of attack. This has led to something called cyber fatigue, or an apathy to proactively defending against cyber attacks, and affects as many as 42% of companies. And since the Ukraine war, 97% of organizations have seen an increase in cyber threats, whether that be email, phishing, quishing, any number of different ones that we can talk about. And again, that diverse landscape that we've got out there. The three main factors I believe this year that were reported are going to remain unchanged. So ransomware as a service. This might sound a little wild, but it's actually a competitive marketplace. You have these cyber criminal groups that are actually running marketing campaigns and have websites that look like your own company's campaigns. They have videos, they have white papers, they are active on social media platforms like X. It's a business for them, and a big business. Total ransomware revenues in 2020 were around 20 billion. That's up from 11.5 billion the previous year. Some of the well-placed examples that you've probably seen in the news are Locky, Goliath, Shark, Stampedo, Encryptor, but there are so many others. And as quickly as they disappear, and there has been a well-documented case at the moment of people being arrested in Russia, they're so quick to reorganize, and they have newer and better ransomware variants as they grow. And they're very public about it. They don't mind advertising what they've done and who they've attacked. An increase in AI-powered attacks. We can all sit here and admit the security product market has actually been quite quick to hype up generative AI's expected productive benefits, but for me, there's a lack of practical outcomes, and it can foster a bit of disillusionment. The thought of an autonomous security operations center using generative AI, as I said, it's generated lots of hype, but it couldn't be any further from reality. And some of the changes that we're going to see, it will continue, but security practitioners will sink deeper into that disillusionment, much like developers might do with some of the Copilot for GitHub that's available. And this is only going to get accelerated by challenges around budget, and unrealized AI benefits will reduce the number of security-focused individuals. Again, just topping up that skills gap that we've got. Finally, supply chain. There's a real growing pressure from Western governments around companies producing software bills of materials. It's always been awkward for software component transparency, but it does highlight the role of third-party and open-source software in the products that you might use, and governments' purchase of that. In fact, there is a government that's setting a compliance regulation now that software suppliers will need to restrict an open-source component if they believe it to be a threat based on grounds of national security. And then, as a developer, you'll need to remove that component and replace the functionality. Now, I don't want to go as far as saying that might be rewriting a bit of software, but it could certainly extend the amount of time to release, or maybe even put something offline if it's something critical. This is a rough estimate, but who knows next year. We're going to keep as close as we can, and we'll always keep you updated with any webinars or anything that we can provide, just to keep you up to date on any new threats that are coming out there. Now, enough fear mongering. We'll go into some good stuff now, and I quite like this diagram. My team leader said that we could make a 7-layered cake out of this, which I think is actually an excellent idea. 7 different tiers and different flavors in each one, different colored icing. I think would be an absolutely incredible feat, and maybe something we could post off the Bake Off to get them to do it as a challenge. But you start from the center and you go to the outside, and everything that is good practice. So mission critical assets and data security sitting in the center. That's backup disaster recovery, application security, vulnerabilities and patch management, endpoint security, devices, network security such as firewalls, and then two at the end, perimeter security in the human layer. Talk about zero trust networks, and also the bit between the chair and the keyboard. That is becoming as important as any bit of software that you've got that will do antivirus or anything else out there. Our focus areas are linked into that diagram. We can help with backup and disaster recovery. We can help with application security, testing for vulnerabilities, and patch management. We offer endpoint security for a number of vendors and have a real focus and link up with offering managed detection and response services. A little bit more on that shortly. And finally, the human layer, awareness training, and perimeter security with password and user management and zero trust native tools and systems available on either cloud or on premise. Focusing on backup and recovery, nearly 50% of SMBs have reported that they lost data at some point between 2019 and 2023. Benefits of a good backup and recovery strategy: it will minimize downtime. You will protect your data, whether customer or your own. It can improve cost efficiency. It does build customer trust if you can present to them that their data is safe, and if you run a platform that is, say, business critical in terms of getting back on your feet. And certainly regulatory compliance. There are areas of the ISO 2701 that point to having a good backup strategy or good disaster recovery capabilities in place should improve your recovery point objective RPO and your recovery time objective as well. The 32110 approach is a little modification of something or a strategy that used to be just 321, which is the top line. 3 copies of the data, 2 different types of media, and then 1 copy off-site in the data center, the cloud or tape to protect against local disasters. We add the extra 1 in there as an offline and completely disconnected from the network to protect against a ransomware attack. There have been examples of threat intelligence or a threat center dealing with an attack where a customer it was an open RDP port and they got ransomware. A group came in, ransomware, and left a little notepad saying that they'd been there. The data then got resold to another network, and the company restored the data that they previously had from a backup. Had the same problem, had the same vulnerability. They attacked them again. They countered it. This other criminal gang left it. The data got sold again, and they got attacked again because they restored the backup. So having it completely clear and from away from the network and get a complete clean backup and help you get back to normal as soon as possible. Final approach is regularly testing and verifying backups to make sure there are 0 errors and that they can be restored when they're needed. Ultimately, a robust strategy will minimize any errors during a backup and recovery verification. Where we can help with this, we have 4 different vendors that can offer different perspectives and different approaches to your backup and disaster recovery strategy. Acronis offer both traditional on-premise backup tools as well as a cloud-based as-a-service platform that also integrates a lot of different security tools as well, such as endpoint security patching, data loss prevention, email protection. The MSP 360 are a fairly new vendor to us, but link up very well with one of our cloud storage suppliers who are called Wasabi, and they exclusively use that and are a partner for backup storage. But they cover a multitude of environments, include virtualized and Azure, M365, and very cost effective in that space as well. We have our own Cloud Global Services group with a managed backup offering. So if you feel you're a little low on resource and you wanted someone to look after that, deploy it, do health checks every 6 months on the data, you can utilize those guys to do that. And finally, Veeam, they do a good bit of both. They are still very good on-premise backup supplier and solution provider. They're branching out a little bit more into cloud. But when we start thinking about Azure or AWS deployments, more clients are tending to head towards a serverless infrastructure basis with as a service products. Veeam are one of the better ones that we've got out there that will integrate with that without needing an agent on the or an operating system to read the backup from. All four of these are very important, and if you want to find the best way or the best strategy, we would say get in contact. We like to tailor our vendors to our customers and make sure that they're getting the right solution. Moving on to testing for vulnerabilities. And the question is, are you confident your cybersecurity defense is strong? And the benefits of patch management and testing are all linked to protecting sensitive data from cyber attacks and stopping or patching those gaps. You can remediate any gaps in the security before you're exposed to a breach. Foolproof security defenses and testing for regulatory compliance, and you're going to protect your brand's reputation by avoiding any data breaches. Strengthening security with a more proactive approach rather than reactive. The four types of test that we certainly, again, can help you with or help you find a solution for are automated security tests, penetration testing. We offer health checks, security assessments, both through Cloud Global Services and our penetration testing partner, Secure Impact. And we offer a couple of different software patching solutions that can be, best case scenario, automated or manual if you want to go that way. Test solution partners across the testing side and vulnerability management. We use AppCheck, who have a more as a service approach to vulnerability assessment, web API testing, and infrastructure assessments as well. Secure Impact are one of our valued partners in the form of penetration testing, but they do extend that out into doing a full security assessment and road mapping if you're looking to scale up what you're doing, and also have more interesting offensive testing such as red, blue, purple teaming and tabletop C-suite exercises and scenarios that can be undertaken in a training format. Climb Global Services. Some of you out there I know will have taken advantage of what they can offer. The Azure Health Checks is certainly a key component of a security check you can do. But if it is about building security or getting a better deployment, they offer their time and services to get you where you want to be or to a certain standard. Smart Bear is a quality assurance software testing platform, very well known, and we have a good partnership with them, and they can help scope out exactly what you need, and again, it keeps your things like source code safe, etc. And then patch management, we have 3, technically 4 if we include Acronis, but ESET, Heimdall, and ManageEngine are our main partners. And certainly with ManageEngine, they link up with Climb Global Services, who can offer both deployment and training on that product if you wanted to take advantage of that. Managed detection response. If I say this wasn't my passion piece over the last year, we've actually done a couple of webinars on MDR and the anticipated uptake. You can see a 50% cost saving in your cybersecurity operations by having someone else take care of this for you. And it certainly gives you more time to look after the things in the business that are, might be an ever-growing list if you're constantly having to go and look at cybersecurity incidents. It does enhance your security. It allows more rapid response. The vendors that we use all operate on a 24/7 basis. So any time of year, any day, even if no one's there looking at it, they'll pick up an issue, they'll handle it, and they'll make all the necessary changes to keep your business protected. You rely on their expertise. Again, some of the vendors that we work with actually offer their own security health checks every half year to make sure that you're staying in front of the cybersecurity threats that you keep encountering. Offers a lot of cost savings. I already talked about how much it would take to get an individual employed at the business, but again, thinking about the costs to get the right software and hardware and consistent training in place. And again, compliance, cyber insurance or any number of those, this will strengthen your case in ensuring that you've got the best level of protection for both yourself and customers if you deal with them. Our main MDR partners are Acronis. It's an offering that they've had within the last year, which is quite cost effective. ESET have two different versions, both an automated and a human-led response team. They go the extra mile by helping you get deployed. They do a full month of onboarding with you, which is white gloved, and they'll sit and make sure that everything is covered. And then finally, Sophos. These are the guys that are mainly doing that competitive link up. So if you're using another antivirus provider, say SentinelOne or CrowdStrike, they will let you continue to use their technology, but they will attach their security operations service onto the back of it. And this extends also into the Microsoft product stack as well. So if you're using an E5 or an E3 license, they will just attach their 24/7 monitoring service onto it and use Microsoft Defender and all of the great tools that they've now released, and Microsoft Sentinel and Azure Defender to keep you defended on a full-time basis. Cybersecurity awareness training. This is a statistic that we mentioned earlier on. 60% breach, or 68% of breaches involved a non-malicious human element, like a person falling victim to a social engineering attack or making an error. You reduce your risk by employing a good training strategy. You increase vigilance. A good example is I had sat next to a colleague yesterday in the office, tapped me on the shoulder. Just had an email from his customer which had an invoice attached to it saying that we owed them some money back, and he said, "Oh, do you think this is dodgy? Okay, well, let's have a look at that." So having a good training program makes everybody work together and increases your vigilance. It is a good qualifier for cyber insurance. It can bring cost savings because if you've got a breach, you're not going to have to pay any ICO fines, and it does improve the culture at the business as well. Again, that whole looking after each other piece and make sure everybody is singing from the same hymn sheet. 3 different awareness training partners, our main one being KnowBe4. They are absolutely stacked with content on all of the different areas that you could think of in terms of awareness training and providing examples. They also add 2 other levels via email testing, so that you can send out a full campaign and simulate a phishing attack and see how your users would react to that, and then you can offer training off the back of it. They also offer compliance training as well, so if you are going for a certain certification or standard, they can actually test users to make sure that they know what they need to do in order to stay within those guardrails. LibreEsper are a fairly new vendor on the roster, but very useful. They do offer email protection as well as archiving. They have a phish testing solution which also includes awareness training, does allow you to test users, and again, a bit like KnowBe4, they use current threat intelligence to make sure that they're sending stuff out that's relevant or that might actively be out there in terms of threats, to make users pay more attention to what you're doing. And finally, Sophos have their own phishing awareness platform, which allows you to send out phishing campaigns and tailor training to individual users in order to educate them on what they need to look for. Not quite as detailed as the other 2, but if you're already a Sophos customer, it certainly links in with everything that they have in the central portal, and it will start recommending users based on behavior, and again, targeting who needs the most training in that space. Password management. 81% of data breaches are due to poor password practices. I mentioned the SolarWinds one earlier on. There has been a recent example posted on the register where a very large corporate company in the insurance sector was keeping their passwords in a unlocked zip file for nearly 1,000 users. So it becomes a lot more prolific, and whilst it's not an absolute requirement on something like Cyber Essentials or Cyber Essentials Plus, having this in place can certainly assist with getting through that metric and that assessment. It does offer enhanced security. It makes it more convenient for users. It offers time savings and productivity. It reduces the risk by having a secure cloud platform, which is actually the way most of these are tending to be deployed now, and secure sharing. A lot of the modern vendors are now integrating with things like M365. You can do very clever things, such as stop people using social media. You can force rotation of passwords if you want to be ultra granular about what you do. But in terms of vendors, we have a couple. Keeper are both enterprise and SMB based. They're very well integrated, as I said, with M365. And they offer some kind of insight as well into password strength and educating users on that. So they certainly go into the awareness training piece of the puzzle. The Manage Engine product, again, the Keeper one is very cloud-based, but the Manage Engine offers both an on-premise version and a cloud version as well. And again, we can help you with that, help you get it deployed. The final slide is a cross-section, if you like, of that 7-layered diagram and how we approach that and the vendors that we have in order to get those pieces of the puzzle slotted in place. This is something that we plan to add more capabilities in coming into 2025. As I said, we know that zero trust is becoming more of a factor, so we're going to add more capabilities around that with our current vendor list. But generally, if there's a security concern that you've got, we'd love you to come discuss it with us. Let us try and help you find that solution. Let's remove that headache for you and give you the best advice possible in that world. As a short summary, multi-layered protection is the key. Compliance with cybersecurity and frameworks, we can help you with that. Consider cyber insurance. We have a route into that as well. We can get you cyber insurance cover. Don't forget about the human firewall with your security awareness training. Make sure to test your defenses and use software regularly. Manage your passwords effectively. Remember the 32110 backup approach. And utilize MDR and any other managed service we can offer if you don't have the capacity. Contact details there on the screen for the security team, as well as the phone number. We offer plenty of information on our website where you can get in contact with us and see any future events, webinars we've got happening with our vendor partners, and along with any news releases such as any important breaches or any important vulnerabilities for any of these software vendors that we have, not just in the security sector, but everything else that we offer as well. We do like to keep you informed. Well, I hope you found the session informative. As said, all of our contact details are on the screen there. But thank you very much for your attendance and have a really good Wednesday, folks.